What is going on, guys? Kevin here to bring you a new video today. For today, while I'm at my aunt's house, it is morning here. I had some downtime, and I wanted to talk about a TV show that I actually just, finished catching up on yesterday, called Mindhunter, which is a very unique show that I discovered on Netflix. I really just discovered it just by looking through recommended shows, and I saw Mindhunter. I was like, oh, that sounds cool. It must be about the mind, right? It must be about like psychology, right? And it is. It's very in depth. It's a little slower than the average show that would be like more like filled with action and like fast paced. It's definitely different from like those types of shows. And it's definitely like just like structured differently, but it does incorporate a lot of cool elements of psychology that really interested me. Um, when I watched it. I'm glad I noticed it, and also, it's directed by David Fincher, or he helped create it. Either way, he had a hand in it, so um, he's a great director. So I'm glad that he's in it. I love Fight Club and Seven. Those are two of his movies. Sadly, I can't name others. If you did tell me others, I'm sure I would recognize them. But yes, he's directed Seven and Fight Club. Um, yeah, I can't remember others, but that's alright. But yeah, Mindhunter is a really good show. It's pretty fun. It's just intriguing, like the things they talk about, because it's set in the '80s for one thing, which is cool because I like that time period. I know a lot of things are set in the '80s nowadays, but like, um, I still think it's cool the fact that it's set in that time period, where psychology wasn't quite that accepted like worldwide. It wasn't like a very like accepted practice back then. I mean, it was definitely being adopted by like people like already, but like especially in the field of like criminals, which is the field that this studies. Like, so this focuses on criminals and trying to figure them out psychologically. So like before this time, in this time, it wasn't about the why, it was more about just the who and the how, I guess. But the why was never explored. So this show seeks out to explore the why of, why do people kill people? Um, Basically, these two guys, Holden Ford and Bill Tench, they go out and they explore different people, um, different sorts of people, and investigate murders. They're FBI agents. So they're kind of working to like solve murder cases, but at the same time, they're also working to kind of see into the mind of someone and understand like what made them want to kill that person, what went on in their mind when they wanted to kill that person, what fantasies did they have, how'd they feel about it when they did it, things like that, which is really cool. You really have to like be patient with a show. I feel like, I feel like that can be difficult for me. Like I'm not like a type of person who's like extremely like patient with like slow paced shows like that, but I feel like if you give it time, you'll eventually like start to the theme of the show will eventually start to like grow on you, and you'll realize like, wow, this is actually really cool what they're doing. I mean, if you like once you like start like once you like you feel like you'll start to get like invested in the plot after a while, and then you just start enjoying it more and more and more, with what they do. Um, it's been a while since I've watched season one. That came out 2 years ago. So yeah, it's been a while since I watched that, but um, at least 1.5 years. But yeah, either way, um, either way, I watched season two recently, and from what I can remember, I feel like it's better than season one because you kind of have like more to like go off of, whereas like season one, you were kind of like being like, okay, what's this all about? Why do they just keep talking to people? Like this is all they're doing, and then you realize like, well, they're in this behavioral science unit. They're working for Quantico, and they're doing like research on criminals and serial killers and understanding like why they do the things they do, and like you get to like understand them better and better, and yeah, and then you're like, oh wow, wow, that's actually really cool. And then like they get into like different murder cases where they solve different murders, and then along with Bill Tench and Holden Ford, two great actors. They also introduce Wendy Carr, this person from like Boston who also helps in their field of research. And then like they get caught in some like controversy with um, a transcript that was like bad, I guess. I don't know, but yeah. And then season two, and there's also this like overarching plot with what is it? Bill Tench's son, where like his son was like really quiet and just like shy and almost seems like he had like a mental disability kind of. He was like really like antisocial, even with like his family. So like there was something like in the background going on with that. And then in season two, they kind of explore that more because, um, you know, he gets. I shouldn't explore things too much. I shouldn't spoil things too much. But yeah, like they kind of explore that plot line with his son more, and like things happen with that where like you're like okay, now we're getting more involved with his son because I kind of wanted to see more of that. Season one kind of like left something to be offered with that. With his whole relationship with his son, because Bill just couldn't talk to his son. Like his son would just say nothing when he tried to talk to him. So you're like, okay, maybe this can go somewhere in season two, and it does. It does. It explores like a new avenue, which I was glad about. And then they get a new FBI director who's like really strict and like stern, and like that's interesting. And yeah, they they explore a number of different things. They talk to Charles Manson, trying to understand him, and like I guess like supposedly like the story is like he like didn't actually kill people. He like got people to kill others, but for that's why he was charged with his. That's why he went to jail because he got people to kill people. But he claims in his interview with them that he didn't do that, and then from the other side of the spectrum, the one of the people, Tex, who is like one of his main parts of the Manson family, admits that he killed those people and that he was getting him to kill people. So it's like you got to hear like two different sides to the story essentially, which is like cool. Um, but yeah, that episode specifically, there's like an episode specifically. I think it's episode 5 that focuses on like the Manson murders. That episode in particular, you could like if it was considered appropriate enough, you could like show that to like a psychology class, and I feel like like a psychology professor could really appreciate that episode because it goes in depth. It gives a lot of like detailed history on the Manson murders, and like I learned a I learned a lot about the Manson murders. Like I didn't I mean like I might have learned it in a psychology class in college, but like I didn't remember a ton. So like when I like started hearing about it, like they started getting to the details of like who was murdered, like everything about it. And I was like, wow, this is really like informative. Like I appreciate this. Like you could show this in a psychology class. I'm like, this is cool. But yeah, and then that episode was specifically cool. And then like while they're in Atlanta, Holden like finds out about like these child murders that have been going on, and they launched like a huge investigation to investigate these child murders and um, or this child murder, if there was one, which is something that's interesting because they're unsure if there really ever was just one child murder. But yeah, that becomes like a huge plot line where they're trying to figure this out. They're assigned to the case and they investigate that for an ongoing period of time. And like my only real issue like with season 2 is that I feel like they were trying to juggle a lot of plots at the same time because while they were doing this investigation, um, Holden had, I mean, Bill Tench had some issues with his son, which I won't say specifically, but like he has this whole like plot line where like he has to deal with like issues that his son was having, where he has to like go back every weekend, and then like that's kind of like its own individual thing, and then like you also had this plot where Wendy Carr is is trying to like pick up the slack while they're in Atlanta. She interviews some people. Um, she interviews like a gay guy, which is interesting because she's actually a lesbian. So she found a way to like kind of get in his head a little bit because she knew like what was like going on there a little bit. I guess like she told a story that about her relationship with a girl that I guess like that she kind of used to like be able to like relate to him. But yeah, and then like she also like has this relationship with this girl, um, that kind of um, has its own little arc that comes and goes. And I feel like my issue with her was that like she had that arc with the girl, but like it kind of just like came and went. In the last like couple episodes, like she's hardly in the show at all. It's really just like Bill and Holden and also this black guy who they're helping to investigate, who's helping to investigate the child murders. Um, but yeah, like I feel like they just like wrote Wendy Carr out of the show, which I don't like. Like it just feels like they kind of like exiled her. Like I don't know, but like yeah, like I feel like they were trying to like juggle too many things at once. Like the Atlanta child murder thing. Like at first it was more of like a secondary plot, but then it became like more of like a primary plot. But I mean, I liked it. It was fun to see like them investigate, and they came up with like creative ways to figure it out that seemed very unconventional to like police forces and other FBI agents, but they like found out ways to sort of think about like what is making this person tick. But yeah, essentially their beliefs are like challenged um, because of like their methods are challenged because of like their how they're finding the killer. And Holden from the beginning believes the killer is black because of the profile and stuff like that. Like what he like kind of drew up like understanding of like what the way this killer was thinking, and like determined that he would be black. And like everyone like outraged against that because like they thought it was the KKK. And there was this whole plot line with that. And yeah, it's an interesting avenue they went down, for sure. It felt like they kind of just threw it in there like as an added plot line like right at the end. But it was good. I mean, it wasn't the central plot line for the whole season. It was like the central plot line for like the last like 4 episodes. But yeah, overall, either way, Mindhunter is a really fun show, which I'm glad I found out about. And I recommend that you watch it too if you're interested in psychology stuff and don't mind like a slower paced show, because it really doesn't have like any action, and like it's just not that type of show that's like intense or anything like that. It's just entertaining if you're into like psychologists or the FBI in this case exploring like criminals' minds and understanding them, and then like hearing from them as far as like what like motivates them, I guess. But yeah, it's a really cool show. I'm glad I got to watch it. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. But I'll see you guys in the next one. And one more thing, I do love that this show was set in the 80s and slash 70s in the first season. But with that, there came some great soundtracks that I loved that were in there. Two of them being "I Wouldn't Want to Be Like You" by the Alan Parsons Project, which is one of my new favorite songs, and "Lunatic Fringe" by Red Rider. There's definitely some others that I liked as well that I just can't name, but those two are great songs that I'm glad were in there, and I'm glad that this movie was set in that time. It just made for a great theme for the whole show, which I loved.